never be the Legion's pawn, and this tower will not be its den!
Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. Doing something a little different this time. In this video, I want to take my first dive into the lore of this game, specifically about the Archmage, Khadgar. Why him? Well, he's my favorite character. So in this video, I'll go over the whole story behind him to give you a better understanding of what he's all about. If you don't pay attention to the lore outside of the game, the most you probably know about him is that he led the counterattack against the Iron Horde during the Warlords of Draenor expansion, and now against the Burning Legion in the Legion expansion. He's the leader and the brains of our current war, and for good reason, because he's done it before. He's one of the big sorcerers in the game. Khadgar is one of the names that pops up in people's head whenever they hear the word mage. So, let's start from the beginning. Khadgar is part of the Kirin Tor, which is the faction of mages who lead Dalaran. At the age of 17, he was sent from Kul Tiras, a human city-state, which is located on an island southwest of Lordaeron. This was also the home of the famous Jaina Proudmoore. He was sent to be an apprentice to the great Medivh, who unbeknownst to Khadgar at the time was the last guardian of Tirisfal. This is a line of incredibly powerful warriors who protected the world from the Burning Legion, and it's a title that Khadgar at one point dreamed to hold himself. He studied under him in his tower, Karazhan, a place we're all familiar with by now, and he did, well, apprentice stuff, primarily tending to the tower and learning from one of the most powerful mages in history. One day while wandering about, Khadgar entered a room and saw a vision. It was that of a human army in battle against an army of beings unfamiliar to Khadgar. They were bulky, had green skin, and black armor. And most importantly in this vision, he saw that the human army was led by an aged wizard whose eyes looked much like his own. Puzzled by this, Khadgar continued his duties with Medivh and the two grew close. He was handed over to the Kirin Tor at the age of 6 and never saw his parents or siblings again, so Medivh sort of turned into a father figure to him. Although it wouldn't be long until he learned that something was wrong with the last guardian. Eventually, Medivh taught Khadgar how to control a griffin and took him to explore the southern part of the kingdom known as the Black Morass. You may remember this as an instance in the Caverns of Time. This was a swampy area just south of the Swamp of Sorrows, and it was eventually turned into the Blasted Lands. Here he had his first encounter with orcs, the beings he saw in that vision. As they flew above the lands, they noticed a wrecked caravan, and Khadgar's griffin was shot by an arrow. He crashed to the ground and was subsequently ambushed by a group of orcs. They battled each other, and Khadgar had the upper hand until a warlock named Nothgrin appeared. They agreed to a duel of magic. Khadgar readied his spells, Nothgrin prepared his dark arts, and suddenly Medivh arrived to aid his young apprentice, killing all of the remaining orcs, leaving only Nothgrin alive. The orc looked to the last guardian and recognized him. He spoke to Medivh, saying, "Nothgrin knows you, human, you are the one." But before he could finish his sentence, Medivh hastily immolated him. This was the first red flag that something foul was afoot with Medivh. But nevertheless, time passed, and Khadgar, eager for more of those curious visions, worked on a spell that would show them to him. He used it on himself and witnessed another one showing the battle between the great female guardian, Egwene, and the avatar of Sargeras, the leader of the Burning Legion. Egwene was the first and only female guardian and the mother of Medivh. Although she won the battle against the avatar, unknown to her, it came at a great cost. Eventually, Medivh was called to the kingdom of Stormwind to investigate some suspicious deaths. He chose to bring Khadgar along to aid him with this. Two powerful mages, Huglar and Hugrin, were found dead in their room within the castle, their corpses terribly mutilated. While investigating, they were attacked by shadow magic. Although they came out unscathed, Medivh went on to explain that they died because they were summoning demons. The Supreme Commander, Anduin Lothar, who was the one who called in Medivh, was skeptical of this explanation, however. He said that Hugrin and Huglar weren't the only high-profile mages to die from an accident such as this. They were part of the Council of Tirisfal. This is the group of people who select who's going to be a guardian. And multiple members dying under such unfortunate circumstances in such a short period of time was suspicious to say the least. Nevertheless, the investigation hit a dead end, but the whole experience left Khadgar suspicious, and he started to sense something was deeply wrong with Medivh. He met with a half-orc assassin and an emissary of the Horde, Garona Half-Orcan, and they started investigating behind the scenes. It was then that they finally learned about Medivh's plot. He had built what is known as the Dark Portal, a link between Azeroth and the orc homeworld, Draenor. It was he who brought the orcs upon Azeroth in an attempt to wipe out the human population. But one question remained: why? Well, basically, Medivh wasn't really Medivh. He had been controlled by the Dark Titan Sargeras, whom Medivh's mother, Egwene, fought the avatar of long ago. Although she managed to defeat Sargeras' avatar after a long battle, it was all part of the Dark Titan's plans. He fell before her purposefully, and upon his death, he transferred his spirit into her body where it lay dormant for many years. She eventually fell in love with the tear-scarred Magi, Neela Saran, and not too long after, she gave birth to Medivh. She transferred her power and knowledge into him so he could one day use them to protect Azeroth. But unknowingly, she also transferred the spirit of Sargeras along with his power and knowledge. Medivh grew up just like any child, until one day he and his friends, Prince Lane Rin and Anduin Lothar, were ambushed by jungle trolls on the roads of Stranglethorn Vale. They came out with their lives, but Medivh fell unconscious during the encounter. He awoke from a nightmare and confided in his father. Trying to console him, he touched his brow and unintentionally unleashed the power that Egwin had bestowed upon Medivh. Neelis, along with hundreds of clerics, worked together to contain the power, and they were successful, but Neela Saran lost his life and Medivh fell into a 20-year coma, and along with this awakening of power came the awakening of Sargeras. He eventually awoke from his coma, but ever since then, he's been under Sargeras' thumb. It wasn't really his will to create the Dark Portal, it was that of the Dark Titans. Khadgar initially had no knowledge of the details surrounding his corruption and felt immense betrayal from someone he considered to be a father figure. So, together, they confronted Medivh and a short skirmish ensued. The last Guardian proved to be too powerful for just the two of them, so Khadgar summoned an image of his mother, Egwin, to distract him so they could regroup. And with pain in his heart, he went to Medivh's childhood friends, King Lane Rin and Anduin Lothar, and asked them to confront the last Guardian. They went together to Karasan to catch Medivh in the act. He was in a psychic link with Gul'dan, an orc warlock and leader of the Shadow Council of Draenor. They battled each other, and even outnumbered, Medivh pushed them to their limits. Khadgar conjured a spell against his old master, or rather Sargeras, and it was simply brushed off. He was countered with the spell that drained Khadgar's powers and turned him into a frail old man. The battle raged on, but due to being outnumbered, it was inevitable, and Khadgar and company would gain the upper hand. Khadgar managed to corner the last Guardian, and with blade in hand, he sunk it into Medivh's chest and pierced his heart. Upon his death, he was purified of the Dark Titan's corruption, free at last. And at the same time, Gul'dan was sent into a coma due to their psychic link. The battle did come at a cost, however. In one instant, Khadgar lost his powers, his youth, and his closest friend. He looked at himself and finally recognized the vision he saw long ago. The old wizard who would lead the human army against the orcs of Draenor was him. Regardless though, the Dark Portal was open and the war raged on, and Khadgar, along with Lothar and several other refugees, had to flee north to Lordaeron. All hope was not lost though. During this time, he found that he was regaining his powers, even becoming stronger than he previously was, although his old age remained. He was called back to the Kirin Tor to explain what happened with Medivh, and he was given permission to become their liaison to Anduin Lothar and to aid the Alliance in pushing back the Horde invasion during the Second War. The kingdoms rallied together and the Silverhand Paladin faction was born. There, he met the famous paladin Turalyon, and they became close friends during this time. They fought side by side in many battles, and eventually, the Horde bit off a little bit more than they could chew, and they started to get pushed back in their offensive. It wasn't clean though. In a key battle in the Blackrock Mountain, the war chief of the Horde, Orgrim Doomhammer, met Anduin Lothar in combat and took his life. Doomhammer was later captured by Turalyon, but it came at the price of the life of the Lion of Azeroth. Now that they'd been pushed back, the only thing to deal with now was the Dark Portal. Khadgar, having studied Medivh's magic, was the only one capable of closing it. And so he did, and along with it came the end of the Second War. Khadgar's battle, however, was not over. Although the Dark Portal was finally shut down, the rift between the worlds remained. When the old Horde recovered, they would strike again, and in bigger numbers. So, that's it for part 1. There's a lot more to talk about, but I don't want these videos to be too long, so I'll split it up into multiple parts. For the next part, we'll go over Khadgar's first campaign into Draenor, and the more recent events from the Warlords of Draenor and Legion expansions. I hope you're enjoying it so far. I mean, if you made it to the end of the video, hopefully that's the case. Once I finish part 2, I'll add a link in the description and at the end of this video. Anyways, as always, I hope you found the video interesting or entertaining. Like it if you liked it, and thanks for watching. Peace.